Hello, and welcome back to Drunken Disorderly. I'm your host, Ray, and it's just me again tonight. We will be back with Erin after Labor Day. I am so excited to have her back. We had a little meeting today, so look forward to that. Tonight, I am welcoming Washington Libertarian Anthony Welti to the show. Hello.
Howdy, howdy.
It's so nice to see you again.
Oh, man, I've been missing you. I can't wait to get out to Nebraska someday soon, I hope.
Hopefully a different month than last time, because I think we melted like 10 pounds that day that you guys were here for Spike's campaign stop.
Yeah, that was brutal. I mean, we were in Vegas and Arizona where it was 100 and I think 12 and 117, and Nebraska was equally as painful.
Well, it's kind of painful the other way in the winter, so don't come in either of the extremes. Come in fall or spring, it's beautiful. Oh no, he's already frozen. Anthony is up in Seattle right now, and we'll be talking about all sorts of fun stuff he's been doing recently. He's kind of on the road permanently right now, doing some touring, some training, all sorts of stuff. So, oh, here he is.
Wow.
Okay.
That's weird. Give me half a second here.
Sure, no worries. He's also not at his own place, so you're always at a disadvantage when it's not your house and your equipment. And
well, all of a sudden, my Wi-Fi gave out.
Oh, that's always great.
And I carry a nice Wi-Fi with me. And it's right here. See, I'm just gonna double check this here real quick. Well, I have power, and so give me 1 second because I am connected to a backup, but it doesn't look like it's as good, and I just want to.
Oh boy. Yep, he froze again. All right, I will let Anthony get that all January 28th. You know what? I would love to. I am so unhappy that I missed Iowa's convention this year. It's one of my favorites. It's the first one I ever went to, so it's always my favorite every year, and I was sad that we missed it this year. So yes, we will be there next year. With or without Aaron, John and I will be there no matter what. All right. Did you get it all figured out?
Yep, we are good to go there. Sorry about that.
Awesome. Well, hey, as long as we got it figured out.
Yeah, hopefully it works.
I will see you there, Jacob.
Cool. I'm good to go here. Sorry about that.
Right. Oh, no worries. Good.
Awkward.
Good.
Here, I can break the awkward. So this is, every now and again, as I travel, I'll have issues with my internet, of course, like anybody, because I'm like super backwoods a lot of the time. But usually I can plan around it and mitigate it pretty well. But one day I had good internet where I was at, this place called Crescent Bar out in Washington, which is a beautiful spot, or it used to. But I was interviewing Mary Ruwart one day, and I forgot during my interview that at 4 or 5 o'clock every day, 30-mile-an-hour winds come through camp, and I had my awning out on my trailer, and I straight up had to end an interview with Mary Ruwart that I was hosting, where we were just going into healthcare stuff, right? And because that's what my topic was as candidate, and basically run outside to make sure the side of my trailer didn't get ripped off. So needless to say, this is not nearly as traumatic.
Yeah, luckily I haven't had any of those mishaps, but it was challenging that day in Lincoln outdoors. We were on a backward slant, and it was just sweltering. There was no shade, so it was nice to
Well, you had a tent at least, right?
Yeah.
But
kind of finagled my way into somebody else's tent.
Yeah, I think that was a 2-shirt day for Spike and the rest of the crew for sure.
You guys really put in the work. I mean, you guys were, it seemed like everywhere. Like you guys were nonstop on that tour bus.
Yep. I'll always remember the Nebraska event though, because when we showed up into town the day before the event, it was about 11 o'clock at night, and there's a concert going on downtown, an outdoor one. I can't remember with the little venue that was behind us, but it's kind of an outdoor eating area and stuff. And there's a concert going on, and that was the first time in 9 months or something that I'd seen a large group of people, more than 100, 150 people in one area, because of COVID and everything being shut down. So showing up there, it was like such a great energy, and it instantly put a smile on my face, right? Just a little extra energy, honestly, on a grueling tour, right? So Nebraska was kind of cool for me specifically. So I really want to come back and spend a couple of days there.
That's awesome. That's really great to hear. Yeah. Luckily our governor didn't do any mandates across the state. He is pretty anti-mandate, but, he left it up to the localities, and the lady that was, given the decision-making power here in my county decided to mandate masks over and over and over again with tons of opposition. I know, doctors that went, and that's the reason why I go to this one doctor now, who's my chiropractor, because I kept seeing him on Facebook, going to the city council meetings and speaking out. And, he's got, the degrees behind him to say, here's exactly why this isn't going to work.
Yeah.
So
the chiropractors have a lot of whole body health knowledge, holistic health, and a lot of experience curing people's ailments in ways that the normal medical establishment doesn't traditionally do it, right? So they provide a unique experience, and that's what we should be embracing, is all of these different ideas instead of the censorship and the one size fits all, that the only way you're not going to kill grandma is if you jab yourself, you don't go out in the light of day, and you wear 3 masks while you drive your car. And it's just silly to think that in this vast world of, it's that's really what we've relegated our society to. So I can't, I don't know. I'm done with it. I'm really over the whole thing. The force has got to stop. It's absolutely disgusting how they're going after people at work and trying to tell people who, that you can't work anymore, if you don't take the jab, and it's not cool.
Yeah, I belong to No Mask Omaha, our local group here on Facebook, and all the local big healthcare centers are getting put out a letter, and they all put their little logo at the bottom that says that they've all got to get jabbed by next couple of months. And so there's a walkout staged. I think the 23rd. It's a 2-day thing in the next couple of weeks, and I hope they all do it, every last one of them. Because it should never, ever, ever be mandated. I don't understand how we even got here. They never mandate the flu vaccine, or, you know what I mean? My employers have never, ever asked me before what inoculations I've gotten.
Yeah. Well, I think the medical establishment, that arm of the cathedral, the white coat cartel has been angling for this for decades, and it's been a little bit of a slow burn. I come into the liberty movement through the medical freedom end of it, where I've sat with parents, I've rallied with parents, thousands of parents at the steps of the Capitol, simply wanting to be left alone, right? That they have their trusted doctors, their health, they've got their personal beliefs on everything. They've got science and doctors that are supporting their choices. They've got, negative outcomes, from medical intervention, right? Things that make them leery, health issues that make them, leery. And, we watched it happen with the kids first, and adults were kind of immune to it. There was a little bit, the military's always been abused when it comes to medical things. Yeah. If we're thinking about, all the wasted life, fighting in Afghanistan, and the COVID vaccine being mandated on them right now. Well, what about the anthrax vaccine? These military men and women have been abused by the state, and tested, used as guinea pigs for decades now. And now it's crept into the children, and now it's creeping into, not even creeping, it is lunging, into everyday life. And it's, the idea of, like, here in Washington, where I'm from, our hospital workers are mandated now that they have to get the vaccine. They're about to, probably tomorrow, to mandate that all teachers get the vaccine. They're mandating it for college, right? As soon as it's approved for 12 and under, they're going to mandate it for students as well. As soon as it's FDA approved, I guarantee it. I bet anybody $1,000 right now that within a month of it being, approved, it'll be mandated in elementary schools across the country for 5 and up. And the whole idea is that it's removing people's choice. It's removing every ounce of their bodily autonomy, their privacy, even, forget their medical choice. Like, it could be any topic, and the government's interjecting themselves into it. And, for me, it's about drawing a line in the sand, and not just playing defense, but we need to be actively, pushing that line forward here, because every second that we're losing the battle. And, us libertarians, we've seen it in, 1,000 different arenas. This one's no different, right? Whether it's the drug war, or the war on healthcare, the big oil, and, all the different ways that we're harmed, right? This is just another one. We have to say no more, though.
Absolutely. If you don't own your body, if you don't get to make your own personal choices about what goes in your body, then you really aren't free. How can you own anything if you can't even own your own body? So I don't understand how we've gotten this far with the vaccine passports. I see today that, they've gone into effect in New York City if you want to be indoors for dining or doing pretty much anything. And
well, this is a great opportunity for libertarians. I'm devastated by what's happening. It's affecting my life personally. And I've, as I've traveled for the last couple of years, full time as a libertarian activist, I've heard, just horror stories, right? And it just gets worse and worse. But this is an opportunity for libertarians to continue to be bold, and not for the purpose of, like, hey, I told you so, but our consistency and our ethos on things like open borders, right? Or, the driver's licenses shouldn't be mandatory because it's a government, a government control point. The business licensing, occupational licensing, certificate of need laws, right? Taxes on medical devices, and the lobbying that goes involved, and the whole complex behind it. Like, so many of the things that we've been talking about for decades now, or myself as an activist for, 5-10 years now, it is happening in very tangible ways that are affecting people's lives. And as an activist and as somebody that ran for office, one of the most effective ways I ever had at getting people to either consider a different viewpoint, change their viewpoint entirely, or at least not want to punch me, right, is to be able to show them how something is hurting them, right, and to have it resonate with them, and then to give them our solution. It's just that simple. And right now, there's 1,000 different things that are happening where we've talked about occupational licensing, and now all of a sudden, it's not just about the lemonade stand that's getting shut down, and everybody has a laugh and says, "Oh yeah, lemonade stands, you shouldn't have to have a license." But what about all the other businesses, right? And for the first time, people are seeing that, oh wait, those business licenses are being used against us and telling us we can't work. And if that business license wasn't there, we might have more power in our lives to fight back, right? Or if L&I didn't exist, L&I wouldn't be able to be coming in here and threatening us with fines if our employees aren't wearing masks, right? So there's a lot of those things where I'm getting people to finally see the light of day, and they're like, "Holy shit, Anthony, you were right." And now they've gone from, like, "Oh, you're a crazy anarchist," to not wanting pragmatic steps like what happens traditionally. They've skipped that phase, and now they're like, fuck the government. I want that department gone, right? Because they understand that never again, we don't want this to happen. So I just, I encourage libertarians to use this as an opportunity to show like, hey, this is what we've been talking about. These are the pain points. This is what's hurting you. And people will make that correlation. And now's the time to really go for the jugular when it comes to abolishment of these departments. It's not a compromise. It's these departments are hurting us.
And weren't these didn't we do without them for quite some time during COVID? Wasn't the government germs, we can't go in, we can't legislate, we can't do anything? So it's been proven that we don't need them, and we certainly don't need to keep paying them for the shitty job that they're doing in all these areas.
Yeah. Well, and there's going to be people that they're on the other side of this conversation, right? And they're going to completely disagree with us, and that's fine. Sure. We'll win them over on the war on Afghanistan, right?
Right.
But for the people that are frustrated and no longer trust the system, now's the time not to let the Republicans continue to pander and be like, well, we'll make it illegal to mandate masks, right? DeSantis is doing that, and I applaud him for doing something. But man the fuck up, DeSantis. How about you make it illegal to mandate any vaccine, right? There's a whole plethora of other vaccines that you're having people get put on exemption lists if they decide to opt out. These kids have already been put on registries for decades when it comes to the public system and their medical care. So why are we pinpointing just this vaccine? Right?
Yeah. I don't get why. I love this. Real dollars. Yeah, they've got they're back to lockdowns in Australia, I heard. They've got armed guards outside people's buildings and stuff again. Who the fuck do these people think they are?
And to think to think it can't happen here or isn't already happening. I mean, we've seen it through the protests and different issues over the years. I mean, it's here. It's just a matter of how fast does it get worse, right? And what exponential jumps are made. And we definitely had an exponential one here the last 18 months.
Yeah. That was crazy, and it was step by step, 2 weeks to flatten the curve. And then, we're going to shut down for a little while. But the big businesses, they can stay open because they have, I don't know, magical powers to not have germs. And, yeah. I mean, as long as, they put in those extra barricades and you make you walk the long way into Walmart.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we can rant and rave all day, right? I think most of us have, and I'm kind of tired of it, honestly. Yeah. I'm at this point, and I have been for years, where I absolutely refuse to accept defeat or to give ground. That doesn't mean they're not taking it from me anyways, but it means I'm going to do everything I can to fight back. So it's, but even just over the last 18 months, it's not about what they're doing. It's about what we're going to do. It's how are we going to organize it within our local communities so that as they continue to take, that we're there to help each other. It's how are we going to push back as a bigger community, legislatively and politically. How are we trying to, impact the cultural side of this to get people to want liberty for their neighbors when they've never thought of that before. And that's what I think is important to focus on is what are we going to do tomorrow? What is Anthony going to do tomorrow to help with this? Because as cliche as it sounds, their bullshit lines is this is about the kids. But it truly is, because suicide rates are up to 50% in teenage girls, right? They're killing themselves over this, and that's not okay.
Yeah, I mean, the suicide rate thing that makes me sicker than anything else, let alone everything else that they've done wrong and gotten wrong with COVID, all the people that have died needlessly. The kids, and now I completely lost track. I got so mad. Sorry. That happens once in a while. I was also reading and anyway. So
well, yeah, it's because you got comments coming through.
Can you not see them?
No, I always leave it on private chat so I don't get disturbed.
Oh,
But I'm not the host today, so I can do that.
yep, yep. I'm a big comment reader. I don't know what it is. It's always been a
Here,
thing.
let me see. Oh, mandate the food. Yep, Carl. Yeah, Carl. Thanks for hanging out with us tonight.
Yes. Carl is one of our Iowa libertarian friends next door. So, you're in Seattle right now, and you are like basically permanently on the road. Where are you going next, and what are you doing there?
Yeah, so we just got done. After we got off tour with Spike, my wife and I talked, and we're like, okay, what's the next step for us? And we weren't quite sure, but we were already living on the road, so we decided just to keep doing that. So we did kind of the West Coast. I went through California for a couple of months, and so then found some freedom down in Arizona, and did a little bit of libertarian outreach, but rested just a little bit as well. And then decided to do this tour. We'd had personal goals as a family to get out to the East Coast. We want to experience the history, and we're considering moving out there, settling out on the East Coast. We got a couple ideas where we want to homestead and get a family legacy land going and really protect ourselves.
Yeah.
Should worse things happen, but we're tying it all together with the tour, and basically just working and living libertarianism on a daily basis. Like, for example, so I'm out here in Spokane today, or for a couple of weeks, and I was able to get over to Idaho, which is only a short drive from here, for a rally at a hospital just to support the medical workers there. They're not mandating, but there's a lot of talk of it. So they're proactively getting the message out at that hospital and saying, no, don't do it. And now tonight there's a meeting in a county chapter. And then we're hosting a candidate training this weekend. So, my wife and I are basically living within this libertarian movement, just helping wherever we can, for as long as we can, because this is an important thing for us. So, but next up, we got a medical freedom rally here in Washington in a couple of weeks. And then we head over to Boise for a candidate session. I'm going to go hang out with the Montana Libertarians, and then we're just going to keep heading east from there. So my website, the roadtoliberty.com, that we just launched here on the 4th of July, has a lot of the tour information. So if you're in the area, between Washington to Florida, as we travel coast to coast fighting for liberty, I'd love to meet up with folks and get to meet them and really just, help encourage and help people get more involved in this movement and to create liberty for themselves. So the tour is going to be a lot of fun. And I think we've got, we're going all the way basically from the most westerly point in the country to the most easterly southern point in the country, just tip to tip.
Yeah. I saw the map today. It's kind of all the way
down. And that map's going to get updated slightly here in a couple of days. I got everything pretty much finalized on all the tour stops. I'm not going to make it to Nebraska this year, but I hope to next year.
Awesome.
But as we're traveling, we're going to different freedom rallies. Either just showing up and supporting them, as a rally attendant. I'll be speaking at some of them. We're hosting one of our own where there wasn't one. I just showing up and helping one of the local chapters host one. They've been wanting to do something, but anybody that's been involved in this party for a while knows that sometimes that's harder said than done. And there's lots of reasons. There's lots of reasons why libertarians don't win. And I see them, but I just want to be part of the solution, right? So we're just trying to show up and help, and it's been a lot of fun. It brings joy to my family to be able to serve the liberty movement like this.
That's awesome. So you have kids in tow while you're doing this?
Yeah, we do what's called road schooling. So I've got a 6-year-old, and he's learning all about self-ownership and consent and the states and geography and learning some math and some music all while we're traveling. And it's really a blast having him with me. I get to spend a lot of time with him while still spending massive amount of time focused on the fight. And I was telling somebody else earlier, forgive me, I can't remember who right now, but someday I hope to not have to, waste my productive hours of my life, fighting the state, because there's so much more I want to accomplish with life. And, so many of us do, but the state's crushing us, right? And it's taking so much time from families. And, I was down in California. I got to hang out with Nicholas Wildstar down in California. He was fighting a court case. I don't know if anybody's heard of this, but he'd been essentially arrested for while black, is my understanding. Got those charges dropped, but while he was in court, he was trying to record himself.
Yeah, I did see that.
So they held him in contempt of court, and he was like not willing to take a plea deal. So they were threatening him with all types of jail time and whatnot. And I was in California doing outreach and saw that he needed some backup. So I drove down, drove a couple hours up and showed up at his hearing. Coincidentally, do you remember Adam Petty from the tour? He was the sound guy.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. I've got hair going everywhere.
Yeah, seriously. I think you met Adam Petty on the tour. He was the sound guy and the event coordinator at the bus. Anyways, he was out in California too, so we all flew up or drove up and went and supported Nick. But I forgot where I was going with that, honestly.
So why did they say it was illegal for him to record his own court?
Because they were saying that the judge said you can't do that, and then they charged him with contempt of court. And yeah, it's bullshit. It's one of those things that shouldn't be illegal. Just like they wouldn't let us into the courtroom to watch his hearing because the courts were closed. And we were even willing to put our masks on, and we were going to be good little citizens and follow their rules. But they're like, no, you can't even come in. So we were outside protesting though. And right before he went in, he got on a bullhorn for, about a minute and a half, 2 minutes, and said his little piece and then went inside. And the rest of us were just out there with our signs, right? There's like 7 of us. The police came out, full mask, full, just looking tough. They had their gloves on and shit. And they're like, you can't be here. You got to leave. You're not allowed to protest here on county property. And we're like, well, where's the law that says that? He's like, it's not a law. It's a judge's order. Right. And it's like the judge has jurisdiction over that piece of property is technically what they were saying. And I'm like, well, I'm sure somewhere in some penal code, it gives him that authority that violates the Constitution. Right. And we pushed back, and you could tell that they didn't like it. They got really angry, and they're like, you need to leave. And then they walked away. So I give them credit for walking away because they wanted to give us the choice, I think, to escalate it. And Nick was facing 5 years in jail inside, right? So we complied. We did not want to put him at risk, obviously. But it's just yet again the state overreaching their authority. They moved us, no more than 75 feet. To be legally protesting. And
if they're going to give him 5 years possibly for recording his own case, what are they going to give you guys? 2 or 3? Yeah. Like, fuck that.
And that reminds me where I was going with this. Awesome. So this is what's cool about conversations is my point behind this story and bringing Nick up and is that they eventually they let him off, but they charged him $500 and 40 hours in community service. And the point is they still are stealing our liberty. Even when they let you off, that is 40 hours of his life that sure he's doing community service, but at their approved, locations that maybe he doesn't support. And that's 40 hours he doesn't get to spend with his beautiful wife and his beautiful son, and that's not okay. And his money that he had to spend on it, that's not okay. So the more I get involved in this movement, the more people I see that are getting harmed at, 20 hours here, 40 hours there. And, all of us, are getting just chiseled off the top, every paycheck. It brings more purpose to the reason why we are activists, right? And why we work so hard, because it's, it's human lives that are at stake.
Yep. Liberty is love, and we love our fellow man, especially our fellow citizens. And that's who I want to help my fellow
Yeah.
citizens, not get
Even the ones that are
screwed.
pissing me off,
Right?
like,
Yeah. Even if I don't like you, I don't want you to get bent over by the government. Okay.
yeah. What are you enjoying this evening? I've just got some Pabst Blue Ribbon, just
I
a
saw that.
nice cheap beer here.
Corona with tahini on the top. It's
Okay.
lime salt.
Nice. My wife loves the tahini. I'm not so much into it, but
I carry a bottle in my purse.
nice. All right, you guys will get along great.
Well, they don't have it at the bar, so you got to bring your own.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's where I spend a lot of my time because it's always open.
Well, not always where I've been, unfortunately. Dude, it's like so I'm 2 years into full-time travel in an RV. So my trailer's 28 feet. It looks like a basic RV on the outside, but what we did myself, my wife, mostly my wife, and a whole bunch of volunteers, we remodeled the inside of the trailer all like hand-me-down style, and rebuilt it tiny house style on the inside. And it's really what propels us to be able to do what we do, by living this lifestyle, which is very minimalistic and cheap. I can get by on crowdsource donations.
Wow.
I need to make a little bit of money, so my wife's not carrying this family financially, but we can do a lot more on a lot less. So it's really cool, but we get to haul it all over the place, and without the trailer, the tour doesn't happen. The amount of time that we get to spend on activism, and really it's not even just about the trailer; it's just about financial freedom. I
was gonna say you're kind of living like a rock and roll lifestyle / like you traveler. You just kind of teach your kid as you go, wherever you happen to be. That's where you are. That's so cool, and it's amazing that you guys are able to do that. Especially financially and otherwise. Well, then go. Bye-bye.
Yeah, I mean, I saw the writing on the wall to specifically the kind of stuff happening right now years ago, and I didn't know that it was going to happen this soon. People called me an alarmist. I said, okay, I'm right. So we were positioning ourselves to not invite the state into our life and to insulate ourselves. I've heard horror stories, the way government intervenes in families and stuff. And I'm like, in specific areas where my family would be at risk. And I'm like, fuck that. I'm not, not dealing with it. I stand for medical freedom, right? I'm not vaccinating myself or my family. I've heard horror stories about CPS and DSHS coming into families, medical kidnapping, and, and the idea that, the segregation was happening and that it was going to happen in big cities, not just in schools and stuff. So I'm grateful that we were positioned to be able to do it. But I never, when we started this journey, it wasn't about living on the road. It was just about putting ourselves in a position to be flexible. And then it turned into, well, not only do I need to be flexible, I want to be able to fight as hard as humanly possible. And that turned into running for office, and then the trailer, and realizing, just doing the math. When I was considering running for office, I spent like 6 months kind of analyzing it and like, okay, what race would I want to run? Why will I do it? How can I have the best impact? And one of the questions I asked was like, well, I know libertarians have a hard time fundraising, so how can I do more with less? Right. And if I'm going to run a big race, and I'm going to be needing to travel to go to different events and, hotels and, and just the basic stuff, right? Anybody's been to a convention before, right? It's a couple $100 in hotel stays, and, you go to a rally out of town, you got to stay at a hotel. It's like you spend thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars as a candidate just doing the bare minimum. So we decided not to do the fancy tour bus because we don't have $1 million. But we decided to do, I actually started out camping. I would go into a town across state, and I would camp outside of town, and then I go do a parade the next day. right? And, I'd get to have some family time. I'd get to enjoy the parade, but I'd be working,
Yep.
85, 90% of the time I was there, and it was great. My family was involved. So it's really about, we created a life that lets us be free. We seeked it out and we didn't give in to the societal norms and the pressures. And that's going to look different for everybody, right? Everybody's version of freedom is going to look a little different. And that's that's what makes it beautiful. But, a lot of what I try to talk about, with folks and let them know on a personal level is, even though, we're being crushed by the state right now, there are ways for you to fight back tangibly, both politically, but also just personally in your life to set yourself up for freedom. There are ways you can protect yourself and create liberty in your life. And sometimes it's just about, realizing what it is that you truly value and then doing what's necessary to achieve that, as opposed to, just being stuck in whatever, normal life rut that you might be in. And, we just took the chance. I quit my job. I had a good job. I was selling insurance. I wasn't making great money by any means, but we were well off and had what we needed. And I walked away from it because the liberty movement is important. So we had a lot of faith in that. But ultimately it's it's about the liberty movement. And as far as my time and energy goes, but big picture, it's about just putting my family in a position to where we can truly have what brings us the most happiness, right? And knowing that different states and different counties are locking you down, telling you, which sporting events you can go to or which movie theater you can or can't go into, and it changes by each state. And at this point, you don't even know where you can go to live a normal life. Right. So for us, we're in a position to where we can go choose. And we're just being patient with that and enjoying the journey and helping other libertarian activists as we go, get more involved.
So it doesn't sound like you guys have any plans of settling in for a couple of years. So that's kind of cool. You're going to do this for a while.
Yeah. We're September 1st will be 2 years. I'm thinking at least another 18 months. We're not quite where we need to be financially yet. We're not ready to buy land. Our goal is to pay cash for land. I'm not taking a mortgage. We are not going to get involved with the banks. I'm not letting them, I worked in the banking industry through the '08 collapse. I've seen, we libertarians, we know how evil the Fed is and the central banking system. And for me, I'm opting out, right? I worked in it. I'm trying to create a life that allows me to opt out of those systems. So we're going to pay cash for some land in a couple of years, but for now, we're just going to keep traveling and doing what we're doing.
Cool. Cash or crypto?
Yeah, well, I'm just now starting to get into gold and silver. A lot of we don't invest yet in my wife and I. Maybe we should be, but I've been so focused on getting debt free and paying off the little things, the normal things of life. Yeah. And but I just got into gold and silver and stuff. My son lost his first tooth today, and a couple years ago we thought back to the banking thing. I almost opened him a savings account. It's kind of normal. You go get your kid a child savings account. It's kind of one of those rite of passages. I still have mine.
Really?
The one my grandma opened for me. It's only used for Christmas money. Thanks, Grandma. I always tell her, Grandma, you don't need to keep giving it to me. You could have stopped that 2 decades ago. But thank you. She still sends me money. Anyways, we decided not to open him a checking account. I'm like, no, I'm opting him out until he wants to opt himself in, right? And he can figure that out. But anyways, for his tooth, we're going to give him silver. I'm going to start doing that for all of his lost teeth. Is just getting him involved with gold and silver and rare coins and teaching him about currency through that and how that is different in every country. And it's just an opportunity for us to do some unschooling, really, right? And
amazing.
Just teach him through life. And I'm excited because frankly, for me, it's one of those areas I'm less educated on. Right, I know real basic like bullet point type shit. So, I've only perused part of End the Fed. I've got it in my book stand, but I haven't actually read it yet. So, shame on me. Sorry, Ron Paul guys. So I'm excited to learn with him on this. So I went and bought some coins today, actually, right before the interview here, and he'll have a couple here. I'll have to buy more. He's got like 30 fucking teeth, I guess, that he's got to lose. So kid's gonna have some fucking money here by the time this is done.
That'll be nice. And what a better way to learn than real world situations and experiences, putting these lessons into play, and these, values.
Yeah.
Basically.
Well, part of it for me is specifically trying to break chains. I see a lot of, I see statism as bondage in a way, and it's a brainwashed involuntary bondage because it's from birth. It's the only thing that you're ever taught. For generations, right? Because there's always been somebody that wants control and power over others. And it's basically since the dawn of time, there's been some form of government, and always oppressive. So it's just about, where can I break chains of, if I had known this younger, right? And that's, all I try to teach him that now. I like literally try to like, just keep that in mind. It's like, what lessons do I wish I'd known 10 or 20 years younger?
Yeah.
Just start teaching him that. And hopefully then he'll be better off to teach his kids someday,
Oh God, I can't wait to talk to your child when you're done with the unschooling. I bet he's going to be amazingly well-rounded and articulate and smart in ways that, us regular, indoctrinated folks, can only be jealous of.
He is such a blessing. He is already so bright. I think most parents feel that way. He's just a joy to be around. Personally, it's my absolutely fucking everything. So, I try very hard. I was talking to name drop here. I was talking to Tom Woods today, and he asked me about Uriah too, and he's such an important part of my life, but I try really hard not to radicalize my kid, right? Like I want him to see the truth, but I also understand like what a harsh world this is in. And like being a dad that wants to tell him the truth and wants him to be prepared for the worst, honestly. But not like smashing any, the light of youth and innocence and whatnot. So, he asked me we're teaching him, as corny as it sounds, we're teaching him about presidents because it's, it's important. And he's like, Daddy, how many good guy presidents are there? And I was like, well, son, that's kind of a short list, but let's remember, they don't necessarily mean to be bad guys. They're just making bad choices, right? And, trying to have a soft heart towards that because, in personal life, I don't really give these guys much of a break, and I want him to, I want him and need him to have the grace that's going to be needed to fight through this as it gets worse.
Yeah. And the compassion, we forget about that sometimes because we get so angry because it's so frustrating sometimes that we have to fight against some of these things or even talk about them, that we forget that we have to be compassionate, even if our counterparts are not being compassionate towards us.
Yeah, that's hard for me some days. I mean, it's been rough for me recently. I spent a lot of time being patient for a couple years, and even through this COVID and stuff, I tried really hard not to let it get to me, even though I'm literally living through hell as far as I'm concerned. Like this is the dystopian stuff that I know gets worse and it's like you can see it coming. But try not to get too low on it, right? And honestly, over the last couple of weeks with the vaccine passport stuff, like actually happening, right? Actually, they're threatening to fire hospital workers. I've let my anger fly a little bit the last couple of days, and I want to make sure that I also come from a place of peace, because otherwise eventually we turn into what we hate, right? And that's I can't.
But that is well-placed anger, you know what I mean? And you can use that in a good way. And, there's certain things that, we can't cut slack on, and we cannot, bend at all. And that's one of these things is definitely vaccine
Yeah.
passports.
Yeah. Well, I got banned for Facebook from 24 hours just yesterday. I will say I earned it. However, only on the second one. The first one, they actually just misread. I was kind of like joke quoting somebody. I wasn't actually saying I wanted people to die. I was like speaking facetiously. So they for that, and I'm like, you could have just messaged me. I would have told you what I meant.
Right? Yeah, no, but you might have been mean to somebody, and so we can't have you on Facebook for a day. Apparently,
I was mean to some other people though, so I'll take my 24-hour timeout. I just spent time on Twitter instead.
Much more productive.
Yeah.
I forgot that Zuckerberg was, the nanny that watched our speech. Like, I forgot that we signed that agreement back when.
Yeah. Well, and that's why, a lot of what I'm working on now is trying to, again, work outside of those systems, opting out as best I can. So my website, theroadtoliberty.com, I launched not just to promote the tour, but my intention with the website is actually to have it to be a place for libertarians to go and to have conversation. Not in a Facebook-esque way or a Twitter way where we're projecting outwardly and social media style, but more of a resource for people that are working on projects or want resources. So it has some forums on there, one specifically designed for candidates. So that's any, former candidate, possible future candidate, current candidate, staff member, unpaid volunteer, person thinking about running, right? It's a place for us to go to have conversations that aren't philosophically oriented, but action oriented. It was like, hey, I need help with X. I need a volunteer for B. I can help with A, right? And everybody raising their hands and helping. Yeah. That's brand new. So it's in the group section on the roadtoliberty.com. It's like literally only been on there for a few weeks now. But then we've got another one for affiliate growth. So same idea, just affiliate oriented for either your state or your county. There's a lot of different, Discord groups and Slack groups and stuff. And I feel like this is a place to bring libertarians together from all over the country. And, in a sense, centralize some talent and some resources. And my hope is that other people will take this idea and make it better, right? Because I just know that a lot of us are getting tired of the social media game and getting kicked off. And there's a lot of people that want to get involved and want to help or need help and just aren't connected. And that's one of the things that I enjoy doing is just bringing people together. It's something I've done in my life for years. So the forums are going to be used for that. There's also one for agorism, right? To just start building that network so that when shit gets shut down, we have resources, right? And know how to help. And then there's another one that will be more public facing, that's kind of libertarian, just open conversation, right? And so I'm really excited about that. So if anybody wants to check it out, go subscribe. It's just, it's a place for libertarians, anarchists, agorists, people that are trying to work off grid, right? That need resources and can get us off of, Twitter and Facebook. And, we'll see. Well, I hope to have fun with it. I know I'm going to get banned here one of these days. So I got to have I got to have a backup platform.
That's awesome because, eventually we're not going to be able to say anything to each other. So we've got to have somewhere else to go. So there's his website down below. Oh, dang it. I forgot what I was going to say. But thank you so much for coming on. So you're going where next on your tour?
Next state is Idaho. So we've got in Boise, we're doing a candidate training out there on 9/11, actually. And then I think there's going to be some local events going out there. So I'm going to go, tag along with whatever 9/11 events are going on. And, that's in an area, anybody from kind of Washington, Idaho, Oregon that, it's might be a half day drive, maybe a full day drive, but, people are welcome to come out. If you're in the Boise area, and the hope there is to show up into a state that hasn't been extremely active in recent years. There's passionate people there. But from what I understand, I think they had the same kind of chair situation for a super long time. So they're trying to regenerate some activity. And so Jeannie Omhoff, the new chair out there, I was like, hey, what can I help you with? So we're going out to Idaho just to help her out for a day. And then, like I said, we'll be up in Montana. So, follow the tour on the website. If all of the events will be published here over the next couple of days. There's a few of them on there already. If you want to book me as a speaker, either for your rally, right? If you've got a rally that you need a speaker at, or a county meeting that you need a guest speaker at, whether it be on Zoom or in person, reach out to me. My goal is to come out and encourage and hopefully inspire people to fight harder for liberty. Whether that's teaching people how to run effective campaigns or to fundraise. I've got a decent amount of experience and a moderate amount of success here as an activist. And my hope is just to pass those things on to others, right? And to help, help people be a little bit more successful. My goal here is some exponential leaps in winning elections and a little less incrementalism. I'm not a patient person, so that's why I'm doing this, is just to help, show up. So if you're thinking about running for office and you need help, reach out to me. Right, I got 325,000 votes. I've run a big campaign, and I
that you were running for. I was having you on during your campaign, I think, last time.
Yeah, that was like about a year and a half ago now. That was state insurance commissioner. It was a statewide position.
An important one, right?
Yeah, I mean, it was. I mean, every position's important at the state level, for the most part, except for, no, they're all important. But yeah, I mean, we had great success. I raised like $87,000, tons of support.
Wow.
Libertarians all over the country, but honestly, a ton of independents in Washington came out and supported my campaign and are now considering libertarian votes going forward. But we had 250,000 first-time libertarian voters vote for me, and I'm a big one that my website, The Road to Liberty, kind of is indicative of where my heart is for this movement. And I'm not a big one on there's one way to do this, or it's, my way is the best way, or Anthony's the greatest thing since sliced bread, that you can only message this way or that way. I think there's many roads to liberty. There's many paths. There's many potholes. There's many ditches. There's, so many bridges that need to get built. So my roads, pun intended here. But point being is I had success. We got a lot of endorsements. We raised a lot of money. And I was a nobody. I had no more experience than anybody else. I tried some things. I paid attention to what other people were doing. And I think I had a good vision that we were able to execute. And I think I have a good mind for a little bit of the political chess that gets involved. It's kind of just how my mind works, and planning and organizing and stuff came naturally to me for running a campaign. So I want to share those experiences with people and help build them up. So, after the tour is over, and we're kind of already starting this already, but the long-term plan after the tour is to move into, kind of full-time candidate coaching. Our candidates all over the country don't have the volunteers they need. They don't have the experienced staff, right? Many of our campaigns, they have to do everything themselves. They don't even have a campaign manager. Those that do have a campaign manager, their manager maybe has never worked on a campaign even before, right? And that doesn't mean they don't have skills and knowledge and could be way better than me. But it often means that they just need help, right? That they
navigating the process can be like, who the hell knows how to start? You know what I mean? Get into this and get it going. I'm working on a campaign, a governor campaign, Scott Zimmerman. So I will be definitely using your website and you as a source.
Yeah. Well, we hope to start mentoring candidates on an ongoing basis, right? Not, I'll do candidate trainings and stuff and activism trainings, but this program is going to be more of like help you get from A to Z, right? Maybe you've already filed and you need help going forward, or maybe you're just now thinking about running. but taking like a personal development coach style to it and literally doing, weekly conference calls with you, helping you troubleshoot your issues, helping you build your mission statement, your vision, your goals.
Personalized.
Yeah, and not so much managing your campaign, but helping you figure out who your campaign manager should be, and how to hire that person, and then helping your campaign manager be a campaign manager because maybe it's their first time, and doing team building calls, and and then even going into I hope to help do fundraising for candidates. I know how to pound the phones for a couple hours and to raise money for candidates. So, I want to be a resource. And instead of putting, all my eggs in one basket and helping one candidate, and which is one way to do things. I have this vision of where I can help 10 to 20 candidates, through an election cycle, and then forward even if they want, build their platform, right? Build their long-term vision for their local communities. So not that they need to, drop everything and travel the country like I'm doing, but so rather that they can stay local and create liberty in their hometown. Because for me, that gives me more places to choose from to go live, right? Yeah. It helps bring peace, right? And it's about helping one another. So, the goal is exponential growth, help our candidates build their teams faster, more effectively, which will help their message spread wider to a bigger group of people. Brett DeRitter's doing, Sell Liberty. It was funny for a little while. I was laughing because he was going to go buy land and I was going to go buy sea, I was going to go buy land and he was going to go buy water. And I was like, this is fucking awesome, because we need more resources like this. The Democrats and Republicans, they've got training programs out the yin yang. And the unique thing about what I'm doing is we're taking a nonprofit volunteerism approach to it. Instead of being a paid employee, I'm doing it for free for candidates. I'm just simply a volunteer. You're not paying me. I'm not taking anything from you. I like what you're doing. I'm going to help you. Right. And if you want my help, then we're going to work together. I don't need a business license to do that. So I don't have to invite the state into this relationship, which is great. And then from the financial end, I'm crowdsourcing all of my income, and selling t-shirts and swag. And by selling, I mean giving away for free. And then people gifting money back in return. Now that key word is the gift. Yeah. Anybody that's watching right now, you probably all heard of the Libertarian tip card. And the way we get around this is none of this is fee for service. I'm just working as a volunteer, and people that see the vision and support what I'm doing and want to give to somebody helping this movement. They can do it, and it's tax free, so I don't have to report this to income tax. That's
amazing.
That saves 20-30% right off the top. Right. Again, that's 20-30, not 20 to 30% more that I get to keep. It's 20-30% less that I need. Right. And so we're doing a volunteerism approach to it. So there's a gift button right on my website. My wife is literally making t-shirts and stuff. We've got like legalized freedom t-shirts up online and water bottles and, just some fun swag. It's not about like, I've got this hat for me for fun, but most of what we're doing is not even promoting my tour or brand, but just promoting the message, and just cheap messaging shirts. Right. And, that money goes directly into putting gas into the gas tank. It helps, putting money aside so I can, someday get a homestead. Right. And, and the goal with the homestead someday is to, grow food and donate it to charity, and to have a safe place for people to come if they need. And, we've got, an idea for, potentially having a charity Christmas tree farm. I've always loved Christmas trees. And I've got this idea of, growing a small amount of Christmas trees and giving them away to underprivileged families to bring joy, and just trying to create a life to where we get to live as financially minimalistic as possible and to give as much to others, both from a security standpoint, because someday we may need these resources, to literally survive. In the meantime, it's about just building the networks and helping the people that need it. So, everything that my family's doing right now is really all tied into the idea of being free and living our values, and being willing to take the road less traveled to kind of get there. And what's inspiring is I get to meet people along the way that are doing, variations of the same thing. And, I can learn from them. The travel trailer thing, full-time families is a thing, a major thing around this country. There's tens of thousands of people living in trailers, traveling the country, because it's a cheaper, more affordable way to live. And some of these people are retired. Some of them are poor, and other ones are, middle-class families that just saw a way that they could have a different and healthier lifestyle. I got to go out to Adam Kokesh's property and see what he's doing with his gardenia and living off grid. And, Adam did the tour thing too, as well. And so there's a lot of encouragement that I've get to come across through my activism. And those people have definitely encouraged and inspired me. And, that's all I'm trying to do going forward. It's just, help encourage and inspire people to want liberty for themselves and for others. And then for the people that already are there, is just to help them, in any way we can.
Well, Anthony, I think that you are a great messenger of liberty. I think that you have a great sense about you. I think you're in a perfect position to do this. I love what you're doing, and I'm so jealous I can't do it.
Hey, everybody's vision of liberty could be a little different, right? I just, and for us, it took years, right? And
Sure.
I was at a certain point in my life where it allowed me to pivot a certain direction, right? I just encourage people to challenge whatever that looks like for themselves, and be willing to think outside the box. And that doesn't mean you're going to get all the way outside the box on step one.
Yeah.
It takes sacrifice. I live in 200 square feet. My head hits the ceiling in my shower. There's days when, dude, I got knocked raided by the feds the other day. No joke. It wasn't a no knock raid. They knocked. I was parked, and I should have known better, but there was no sign. I was parked outside the Grand Coulee Dam, which is one of the most important dams in the world. They have this. I did this when I was a kid. They have these laser shows every night after it gets dark. They open the floodgates and they do a laser show. As we're getting ready to leave Washington here pretty much permanently, I was like, you know what? I'm going to take my kid there. So on a whim, we took a detour the other night, went and watched the laser show, and then I just parked the trailer. Like, we're going to leave at 8 a.m. the next morning. I'll be out of here before it gets busy. 1 a.m., rap on the side of the trailer. You can't be here. Right? And I'm literally, my 6-year-old asleep in the trailer. My wife's next to me. I'm in my underwear. And my trailer's not even open. I have a slide out. It's home to us, right? So we have pictures and everything. Everything's piled because when we travel, we condense it down.
Sure.
So like this trailer is not even set up. It says "Be Free" on the back of it. I drive a 2014 nice Dodge Ram. I'm obviously not a vagrant. I'm not littering outside. But they made me fucking move a mile up the road at 1 a.m. I had to take my kid out of my trailer, and I talk a big game about non-compliance. Ultimately we have to protect our families, right? And at that point, there was 2 of them flanking me, and I was on their turf, and so I had to leave. I had to flee. But the great thing is I'm in the position where they can fuck off and I can leave.
Exactly.
Right. And like they, as long as I'm not making the situation worse, I can still go seek freedom. But that's why, we're doing a lot of what we're doing now is to go find a place to where we don't have to worry about that as much and just insulate ourselves. And yeah, so that's my first police interaction actually, on the tour. My tour, we had police interaction on Spike's tour multiple times, but I got knocked by the feds the other night. I should have, if I wasn't in my underwear with my wife and kids, I should have probably videotaped it, but I was thinking, comply, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, it's 1 o'clock in the morning. Fuck it. Yeah. Sometimes it's just not worth it. But well, Anthony, good luck to you. It was so nice to get to hang out and chat with you about everything that you're doing, and I look forward to talking to you soon.
Yeah, be free, everybody.
Good night.